And we are live. Welcome, one and all, to the Box to Box podcast. Brand new show. Presented by GOLZtv. Really quickly to get it out there, GOLZtv for free 24/7 unlimited content, free FREE all the time, always. Head to GOLZ.tv. You can get anything from IRL to gaming content to anything in between. If footy is your life, GOLZ.tv is the place for you. Now, on to the show. I want to go ahead and jump right into it as fast as I can here. So, pardon the quick intros. My name is Jose. I am joined today by two people with, frankly, extremely average takes. We have Alina, aka ggSKFIFA, very popular Twitch streamer on the FIFA side of things. Then we have Andre, a good buddy of mine, someone I've known for a long time, giant Leeds guy. And look, we're going to talk about a little bit of everything here today. I think, considering that we are in week one from the European standpoint with the Prem kicking off, today's show is really just going to hit the highs and lows from everything from the Premier League to MLS. As the season continues to go on, guys, we're going to continue to cover a whole lot more. But for today, let's keep it quick, clean, effortless, and as spicy as we possibly can. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So before we get started, really quick, it's a Monday. Mondays aren't always the easiest to record. People are coming back from the weekend. Andre, how we doing, man? How's the weekend for you?
Man, first of all, appreciate the intro. Super excited to be here with both of you guys. The weekend was great, man. I was out on the lake, out by the water. If you guys haven't been out to the Pacific Northwest, the summers are incredible.
Yes, sir.
Came back relaxed, unplugged for a little bit, obviously watched some footy. But yeah, ready to go, man.
Great weekend too. Alina, how we doing?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't very near the beaches as Andre was, but I had a good weekend as well. I'm actually planning a next vacation that I'm going to be taking after my class is finished, which is in about 7 days or so. So I did a lot of that, and of course, I watched a lot of football.
Absolutely.
I pretty much watched a little bit of every game that was played.
Love it. There's so many, right? So many to keep up with, and we're just in week one. We're going to add a shit ton more along the way. But look, for everyone, right? Because this is a brand new show. Just to give you quick high level in terms of the structure, we want to give you guys a quick recap in terms of the games that we watched, the games we tuned into, maybe some of the more popular headlines out there. There's definitely going to be a lot of spicy takes on this show. We have extremely average opinions. If you're looking for a tactical breakdown of how these teams played, this is not the show for you. I'll be the first one to say it. There are plenty of shows out there for you. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about what we loved from the weekend, what we thought stood out. There's definitely going to be some high level breakdowns, but we want to have fun with it. So again, just to give you a quick breakdown of what to expect, there it is, coming in hot and fast. I want to go ahead and jump right into the first storylines from the weekend. A lot of content to consume, guys. It started on Friday from the EPL's perspective, hot and fast. We had Arsenal go up against Crystal Palace. I'm not wearing a jersey right now, but my Gunners were victorious, 2-0. It was a very straightforward victory. I'll say that. I was personally nervous, but because I'm a tried and true fan, I think it could have, if I'm being unbiased here, it could have kind of gone either way, especially in the first half when Palace had the majority of their chances, and top of the second half when they had the majority of their possession. Outside of that, pretty straightforward W for Arsenal. We didn't see Jesus on the scoreline, but I think overall, not a bad way to kick off the season from Arteta's standpoint. Alina, how do we feel about this game? I mean, do we feel like that performance was convincing enough for Gunners fans to feel like a top four performance is there on the horizon, or do we need to see this more consistently?
I honestly think it's a definite improvement on how they started their last season, because their last season, the way they started was they dropped so many points. They were, changing players in and out, and it didn't feel like they had an identity. And then they started picking it up as the season went by. And the fact that they are starting their season now stronger, and if they can keep that form going, I think they're a definite contender for top four. But that's the key. Consistency is the key. But I don't think there is the only thing they can do is just keep going, keep building. And I think that's one of the main positives for them, really, is if they keep working on, what's going well for them and what's not going well for them, there's only one way.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's I don't know. It's it's kind of like 50-50. Like if you're an optimist, if you're like a positive person in general, right? You like the team and you know, it's a 2-0 victory. You can't be mad at it, right? We didn't see some of the debutantes either. Guys like Fabio Vieira didn't come in. You know, I still think we need to make another signing or two, but you know, from another, you know, Prem team fan standpoint, you being a Leeds guy, Andre, I mean, are you scared of this Arsenal team watching them, or was it just kind of more of the same in terms of how they ended last season?
I would take it back to the preseason, actually. I think that game against Chelsea was a massive statement. You know, and I think that carries a lot of confidence for the players and that momentum that Alina was talking about that wasn't there at the beginning of last season. I also think you hit the nail right in the head. I think they need another signing. I mean, Jesus, obviously, you know, out and out striker. He's got goals with him. Zinchenko is a huge addition. Like he's probably one of the most underrated additions. And by the way, I threw him on my fantasy league team, and he got me 12 points. So
yes, sir.
Something's going right there. But I think that you guys need maybe 1 or 2 more signings, and then they will be that scary team. As far as the finishing in the top 4 goes, I still have them on 4th place. So if things keep going well, I think they're going to make some noise for sure.
Yeah. Man, the North London Derby, when it comes, it's going to be crazy this season. I mean, it was crazy last season. Yeah. But if you guys have been keeping up with Amazon's All or Nothing, which does, you know, spotlight Arsenal for this series, Alina hit it right in the head earlier. I mean, we started off getting 0 points from the first available 9. And then, you know, after being in the gutter for a few weeks, you know, completely turning it around.
Totally.
Hoping we don't have to go through those types of growing pains to see those kinds of results again. But look, I mean, as encouraged as you can be, and I will say, fuck it, we're 2nd place in the league right now. You know, we can't be too mad at it, right? Week 1's in the books, and we're 2nd place behind that Spursy team and at the top of the table. So, you know, all in all, no complaints there. Moving on to the opener on Saturday, which I thought was a crazy fucking game. If you actually watched it live, sat down, so many chances on both ends. You don't see it too often from a newly promoted team, but you know, Liverpool drawing to Fulham 2-2 on Saturday, with Mitrovic just looking like the baller extraordinaire that the Championship needed to probably have last season so that they could get the recognition they deserve. But man, just not scared to go at Virgil, not scared to take it to Liverpool. And look, I can't think of a time when a team that big like Liverpool saw that much trouble in the league opener and then went on to continue to go on and win the league. I think it's going to be tough to see where Fulham at. They're newly promoted team. I think that it's anybody's guess right now. But with Liverpool specifically, is this team enough? Is the 80 to 90 million pound signing of Darwin Nunez enough to get this team over the hump? Now they lost Sadio Mane. Do they need to look at deeper options in midfield? I mean, should we read a lot into this result and say that they need signings, or I don't know, Andre. Maybe they need to just, you know, kind of ride this out and get to the first month of fixtures, and then we'll look at what the rest of this first half of the season can tell.
I think it's still early on. I do think Darwin Nunez brings just a lot of personality to that locker room to begin with that they needed, right? It was getting a little bit stale on the front 3. But that being said, the midfield is getting old. Henderson, Milner, Thiago, even Fabinho, those can't be your guys day in and day out. You know, you need new blood. You need fresh legs to go box to box day in and day out. I also think, you know, we should not discredit Fulham whatsoever. To your point, like my man Mitrovic, my guy was banging him in, dude. Like, give him anything. Give him a rock and he'll put it in, dude. Like, he doesn't give a shit. I was actually talking to a couple of buddies who follow the Championship very closely. One of them being a West Brom Albion fan, and the other one being a Nottingham Forest fan. And they're like, dude, Mitrovic we've been watching him all season long last year, and we knew he was going to do it in the EPL. So I'm glad to see him on the scoreline. To your point in terms of Liverpool and how they're going to end, I think it's still early on, but I also think that, I mean, I don't know, if I compare them to Man City, for example, they just don't have what it takes to win the league. I wouldn't, you know, put a pin on them to win the league. I think they finished top 4, but I think it's going to be growing pains. And, you know, we're going to start to see Klopp's true identity. I think that's one of the biggest storylines for me, right? Like at the end of the match, in the post-match interview, he was talking about the pitch being too dry. Like, that's something that Klopp has never fucking said. Like, why are you saying that now? So now he's starting to get a little bit pressed. And so it's going to be very interesting to follow that storyline for sure.
My man's fishing Fishing. It's you can't really complain about the fixture seasons after week one, right? Like you
Correct.
can't complain about the schedule. So it's like,
Yep.
okay, well, the pitch is
What else
too
do you
dry.
talk about?
Fuck it. Alina, I mean, do you agree? Is there any kind of positives Liverpool can take from this? I mean, 2 goals Nunez got on the score sheet and a pretty little nice finish too. I will say that little back heel.
Mhm.
Positives. Are there any here?
Well, I think for me is when you start this season not as well as you'd hoped, there is only one way but up. Like they can use this as a learning experience to see what went wrong
Mhm.
so early on. Like for example, if you have another Premier League team that's gonna kind of struggle towards like the middle or the end of the season, especially if a team starts dropping points at the end of the season, it's really hard to kind of like work up and try to figure out what's wrong. But if Liverpool are doing it so early on, then I feel like they have a chance to improve and catch up. That's kind of like my mentality.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like every like top four contender team in the Prem is eventually gonna like have that like maybe a month or so or a few games where they're gonna like be tired. It might some injuries might kick in. And I think as they get closer to Champions League times too, it's just, people players are going to be
Yeah.
rotated in and out, and it's going to be hard to get every single point. So I feel like while it is not the result they were looking for, especially compared to all the other teams that picked up points, like we just talked about City, Chelsea. I'm
Spurs.
sure we'll talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
Spurs, Arsenal. I'm sure we'll talk about some of the other games a little more in detail as well. But it's better than a loss. The only way to go is up. They
A
can
point's a
use this
point.
as a
Points a
learning
point.
experience, and then I don't know. It happens. Teams drop points. It's not all. It doesn't look good to drop points on your first day, but it's not the worst thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, who might have talked shit? Gunners dropped, all 3 points to Brentford at the start of last season. So,
Yeah.
I can't really judge too much. But I will say, man, how impactful is not signing Gini Wijnaldum 2 years
Yeah.
ago now?
Yeah.
I think that they should have extended that dude. I think he needed to be the engine when time, like him, James Milner, uh, maybe Ox, if you want to throw him in there. There are a few guys in that team 2 years ago that were very much depth, but also kind of the engine and the workhorses when push came to shove. And
Mhm.
it's allowed Liverpool to like continue seeing results even deep, these late runs into the late part of the season. So I think they need a new signing. I don't know who that magic man's going to be. I mean, I
Mm.
know both
Yeah.
Arsenal and Liverpool were looking at guys like Tielemans. I mean, I would love to see Yuri at a bigger club than
Mhm.
Leicester City. Nothing against Leicester City, but I mean, that they're only ever going to be like maybe in contention for like the Conference League or maybe Europa. But I think that he could play at a bigger club, and I'm waiting for a bigger club to snap him up. Will it be
Mhm.
Liverpool?
Mhm.
We'll see. On to the next. Leeds. They do it. They grab all 3 points. And I'll be honest, man. The opening scoring came from a guy that I was super critical of last season. I think Rodrigo, maybe silenced a little bit of the critics considering what his price tag was coming into Leeds United. And I think more importantly, man, they just after the up and down season, after losing arguably your best player in the offseason, and all the distractions that came along with Chelsea and Barcelona fighting for that
Mhm.
signing. After getting criticized for bringing an American coach who also brought in American players and getting one of those Americans on the score sheet, and having the other American player, Tyler Adams, being a part of that build-up play, it all seemed to click over the weekend for Leeds. Andre, we'll get your take here in a second. I'm sure you got some interesting shit to go through, but I'm sure the celebrations were there too.
Yep.
Alina, anything noteworthy specifically with the American talent? Do you feel like they stuck out? Did
Yeah.
they look bad? Did they look Prem worthy?
I mean, honestly, they looked fine, and we have to keep in mind, like for some of those guys, it's literally their first game in the Prem,
Yeah.
right? So it's just, I mean,
Yeah.
there's not much you can expect, and I don't know. I thought they looked okay. They can improve. They can work on. I don't know. I think the more they play with their teammates and with
Mhm.
each other, and just in general in the Premier League, I think they will start improving little by little.
Andres, Team Mexico.
Yes,
How we
sir.
feel about U.S. players? How we feel
Oh
about the
man,
American talent?
that's a whole storyline, by itself. We can talk a whole episode on that. But look, coming into the season after finishing 17th last season, and being on the brink of getting relegated again, I feel pretty good about the way that we looked. I was pretty harsh on the signing of Jesse Tet Lasso Marsh. Not gonna lie, not gonna shy away from it.
Mm.
But my man fucking stepped up. I think Aronson looked amazing. I think just it's not even just singling out players. I think the team as a whole looked a lot more cohesive than we did, say, the last 4 weeks of last season. And I think that gives me hope that, hey, we're not going to push for, Europa League, but fuck, if we finish 10th and we finish mid-table and next year we build on that, that's what I want, right? And as a fan, I think that's kind of what you should expect. Nothing to take away from Wolves. They're a solid team, but I do think that Leeds got the result that they deserved. And, there's only one way but up. So I'm super excited about the season. I think the new signings are definitely going to do a lot. I miss Rafinha like crazy, like every Leeds fan that I've talked to does. But what we got in return from him has proven to be a pretty solid haul. So, can't wait to see where we go with this one.
Well, don't miss Rafinha too much. We're going to talk about him as he makes his debut for Barcelona next weekend. I can't wait. It's going to be, man. I'm going to get a Rafinha jersey just for you, brother.
Oh, I love it.
All in all, I think the most impressive piece of that win, American talent, American coach, great.
Yeah.
You don't want to put too much emphasis on that because I think it kind of lowers the value of American talent heading overseas in general. But it was against Wolves. And under Bruno Lage have been statistically one of the best defensive teams in the Premier League. It's been hard for any team to score on them. And they pumped in 2 in the season opener. Granted, I wonder why this was. I don't know if we actually got a reason. Connor Cody did not start. He's historically the captain, the defensive rock for that back unit. I don't know. They obviously missed him, but maybe he had some injury I wasn't aware of or hell, some other issue. I mean, who knows? But all in all, super impressive W. I'm hoping that Leeds can continue to prove their worth even without a guy like Rafinha.
Yep.
On to the next one. And this one fucking hurts, but I mean, it is what it is. Spurs, that one other team from North London, closed the weekend out at the top of the table. Hell, they're continuing all the momentum they saw towards the end of last season with Conte. I'll give them that. And they rout Southampton at home 4-1. I think, and Southampton scored first, right? They opened the scoring, and Spurs went on to do what they did. All in all, fairly straightforward result. I don't know if I think the 4 goals to me is probably the most surprising part. I think the W makes sense. I think the multiple goals victory makes sense. Kulusevski looks sharp. Harry Kane's Harry Kane. Heung-min Son is Heung-min Son. All in all, kind of what we expected. But Andre, I mean, is there anything else that you felt like just kind of stood out in that opening victory?
I was pretty impressed, man. I think, you and I had talked about this offline in terms of our predictions for, the end of the season. And
I hope I'm wrong, by the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so it's one of those things where, like, Spurs with all those signings, they're going to do something Spursy, so on and so forth. But starting with a 4-1 victory, I mean, look, it's a big statement. And I think, especially for other teams in London, I'm talking about Chelsea, I'm talking about Arsenal, these guys are going to wake up and they're going to say, we got to do something because, Spurs are doing something right. And so, nothing to be alarmed of if I were a fan of Chelsea or Arsenal, but I'm going to keep them on my rearview mirror for sure. They're going to be an interesting team to look at. And look, Kulusevski, I mean, you can give credit to all the goal scorers, but specifically talking about this game, Kulusevski looked freaking incredible. And I'm sure Alina knows a lot about Kulusevski, but that guy was freaking flying on the field, man. So exciting to see.
Sag for Juve, huh, Alina? I mean, it sounds like it's a player that could have been so utilized. How'd you feel about that W?
I think it's that Allegri effect. Like, I feel like every player that leaves Juve just suddenly explodes. I mean, freaking Morata scored a hat trick yesterday. Yeah. Like, what is happening? But staying on topic with Spurs, honestly, I enjoyed watching that game. I had a blast watching that game, and I know that's probably gonna piss some of you off, but I'm putting Spurs in my top 2 this year. I think they're gonna fight with City.
That's a spicy take right there.
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah, honestly, I again going back to Kulusevski, I think he did great. I mean, the guy can score and assist. That's like right there. That's like complete winger. And with Conte now, he has the ability to just kind of stay forward and not tactically be responsible for like coming back all the time, like he was with Allegri.
Sure.
And I don't know. I feel like Kane has finally gotten that. I wouldn't go far to say world class, but he's really good. He's good. he finally has someone other than Son to give him those balls and create
Yeah.
those chances for him. And I think that's going to be huge for them.
And it's
So I'm
also
putting
a
them in my
World Cup
top
year,
10.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Kane has been talking about that for quite a while, especially after that loss against Italy in the Euros. He was like, "Look,
Mhm.
I'm focusing on the next 18 months, and right now we have less than 4 months until the World Cup starts. So I'm sure he's going to step it up." And to your point, Alina, like he's finally
Yeah.
showing that he can be that world class striker that like the Hollands of the world, like the Lewandowskis on the world. He can live in that atmosphere. So it's
Mhm.
exciting.
Yeah, just the rest of the team has to, not suck and catch up. I think, with here's my conundrum with Spurs. I actually look, Alina, if we're gonna let's pretend that I'm somewhat okay with that prediction of top two, right? They're not top two. They're top one. They're not not one. They're two,
Oh.
right? So the way that I see it, right, is one, they look good on week one, but what happens when Richarlison comes in? That
Hmm.
guy's a 60 million pound, attacker. Who gets replaced? Is it Ho-Ming Son? Is it Kulusevski? Is it purely a very expensive depth signing that they have to figure out where he slots in? Maybe when it comes to the European matches that are on the horizon, I don't know. That's another thing too. I think since 2019, when Spurs made that historic run, that crazy run to the Champions League final, only to get decimated by Liverpool, I don't know if I've ever seen Spurs compete for a full season with that many matches. I don't know if I've ever seen it. Granted, I'm only in my early 30s, but like, I, I don't know. I don't know if that exists. I don't know if that footage is out there, and I don't know if this team is built for that. On top of that, so I think we'll see how the Champions League impacts Spurs table and their seating there, and kind of how they stack up when it comes to those big six games. But look, opening weekend, it's about what we expected. Kudos to their fans. Congrats. You won't hear me say it often, but you guys look like you're sharp in week one. And we move on to one of my favorite topics of the day, because they're a beloved rival. Manchester United and the new boss Eric Ten Hag welcomed officially and properly to the Premier League, being dealt a 2-1 blow to Brighton, at home, by the way, which was
Yeah.
just the cherry on top. I think this game was so much fun to watch because Brighton took their chances. They weren't scared of United. Ten Hag's lineup was its own like talking point by itself. I have my own thoughts there, but I definitely want to start with Alina here. I mean, Brighton come out 2-1. And after I think it was like a 4-2 drubbing last season against United. Should United fans just automatically chalk up this season and assume it's going to be the same downward spiral of last year? Is more of that to come, or are these just growing pains for the new boss?
Man, I don't even know with the United, and it's kind of funny because my dad is a huge United fan, and that's who he's supporting, and he wants them to. And I'm like, no, United are like not the same team they were 15 years ago. But it's just I don't know. Maybe it's like that delusional. I wouldn't say delusional, but I feel like fans expect too much out of their squad, and they're just not at that point. Like it's impossible to perform as well as the fans want. And we don't know. Do you guys know why Ronaldo didn't start yesterday? Because he was on the bench and then he came on the second half.
They said not like 9 days of preseason, basically a week of preseason. According to Ten Hag, no player is fit after a week of preseason, that he needed to come off the bench. I honestly believe it's just due to the fact that he's not a fit for Ten Hag's system
Yeah.
because of his lack of pressing. But that's my take. He blamed it on fitness.
Mm.
So
We'll see.
That's interesting because I feel like with Ronaldo, you make the exception, right? Like you have to make an exception for that guy. Um,
I will say, the last time they started Ronaldo against Brighton, Brighton scored 4 before United even got 1. So just
yeah,
saying.
yeah. Here's what I think about just quickly about that Ronaldo thing. Obviously, it's clear that he wants to leave. It's clear that he wants Champions League football. If he's available, you gotta play him. If he's gonna be with United for 2 more weeks until he's sold to whatever team, play him and get those 9 points. You know what I mean? Like right now, if you're kind of like taking sides or like,
Yeah.
oh well, we've got to like adjust to this specific style of play, and we gotta like get like I'm assuming who's going to be the replacement for Ronaldo? Like Rashford all season? We saw Rashford yesterday
Martial,
missing
maybe.
an yeah,
Martial.
maybe. Yeah, someone missed a tap in. It was an offside, but it was a literal
Oh,
tap in.
Rashford. He
Yeah.
missed
It
that
was
Yeah.
literally,
crazy
yeah,
open.
yeah,
That's there it is. That's what you're gonna get if you're not playing Ronaldo. And
yeah,
there you have like Ronaldo down the wing making the ball, which it should
yeah,
be flipped, right? Like you should be feeding Ronaldo
yeah.
those
I think
crosses and those chances.
Yeah, I think the way that play went down, it only Ronaldo was giving the service only because it was a great ball, and actually it was a great run by Ronaldo. I'll
Yeah.
say that too. He got into a
Mhm.
space that like nobody was tracking,
Right.
and then he had to find someone on the back end. But typically he has more quality around him, right? So he's
Yeah.
got someone like Benzema from Real Madrid who's able to just come in and tap it in, or
Yeah.
even at Juve, he had enough quality around him, Kulusevski or anybody else, to just come in and tap it in. And then you have Rashford who's just struggling to find form,
Hmm.
confidence. You thought maybe there was a little bit of that in preseason, but I guess not. I don't know. Andre, I mean, help me out, brother. Find a positive here if there is one. Um, is there anything that Ten Hag can take away from this result that says, you know what? At least that looks better, or at least we have that to work with. Like, is there anything that we could take away from this game?
No, I'm gonna be very straight to the point here. If I'm him, I'm just like, what the hell are we doing? Look, like Ericsson came on, he was a ghost on the field. He was a non-factor. The Ronaldo thing. To your point, Alina, if you have a guy like that on the bench, freaking start the man, right? Like it could be. Why would you not? That's as simple as that. Like what could be worse? So there's a lot of questions in the air still, right? Like what's your lineup look like? To your point, like that was a statement alone. So look, dropping points at home to start the season from a locker room standpoint, like if I'm talking from a player standpoint, that doesn't do any favors, right? Their locker room's still going to be, either torn or they're just not going to have that confidence moving forward. So he's got a lot of work to do. I don't think the team's complete yet. I would venture out and say that he should go after at least one more midfielder. And we'll see. It's going to be a tough season for United fans. I'll tell you that much. I think if I'm a United fan, there you go. If I'm a United fan, oh man, I'm preparing myself already for the next 37 weeks. I'll just put it that way.
Hey, bro, United fans, Godspeed. Okay,
Yep.
It's a long season. If you want to watch only the highlights this season, I totally get it. I don't even blame you. I mean, like it is what it is. I don't even know if I watch the game.
Yeah, don't wake
but
up
with
early.
with that said, like I still think like he got the lineup slightly wrong in my opinion.
Yep.
Like if it were me going from back to front, like De Gea, sure, and then from left to right, I like Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how Malacia would perform in a game against Brighton, but I like Shaw. Why the hell isn't Varane starting? Is he still injured?
I don't know. That was a shocking development.
Yeah, like Lisandro and Harry Maguire. Like why?
Right.
Like why not Varane? And if you need a true pivot in the middle of the field, that's where I would put Lisandro. He knows how to play the role. He knows how to do it. He did it for Ten Hag at Ajax.
Yep.
He knows this. But anyway, and then of course you probably have to have Maguire, so that's fine. And then
Sure.
Dallo, a right back. That back line makes sense. Lisandro as the pivot. I'm sorry, but Fred or McTominay just wouldn't. It's just so hard. It wouldn't touch they're just not of the quality that a club of this stature needs. They don't need guys like that. Yeah. McTominay is the poor man's Casemiro, and Fred. I don't know, man. You remember years ago when Fred was linked to Man City, before United? If he had gone to City, I don't think we would have the negative perception of Fred that most of us have. I think he's just not. He's not a defensive mid. I think he's just a little bit of a holding mid, but he plays just more of a true center. He needs better pieces around him, I guess, to an extent. But still, right now, I wouldn't start him. Probably, Ericsson, and they need one more signing in that midfield. They need Frankie or somebody.
Let's talk about Van de Beek. There's something that Ten Hag knows.
There you go.
There's something that Ten Hag knows about Van de Beek. If he's not starting him and he has all that confidence from Ajax, like what is up with Donny, right? Like people can't seem to figure it out. So, but yeah, to your point, like they have the bodies, but just it doesn't make sense. It's not fitting properly.
Yeah. I wouldn't let Fred McTominay touch the field. You have Ericsson, Donny, and Lisandro, and then up top, I mean Ronaldo up front, and then you have take your pick of the speed that you want on the outside. It can be anywhere. Sancho, Alanga, Rashford.
Yep.
You can even try Martial on the outside. I mean, you have some kind of options, and I don't know. Again, I just think he was kind of reaching, or maybe he was just playing it super safe, and maybe with players that already know the Prem. I just think, you got it wrong. And
Yeah.
there is a way to go up from here. But if they don't make any more signings, woo, man,
Yeah.
United fans, Godspeed,
Did you guys
brother.
see that meme on? Did you guys see that meme on Twitter real quick? Ronaldo and Varane looking at each other like, "What the
Oh,
fuck, man?
yeah.
Why did we leave
I
Real
don't think I
Madrid?"
did.
Oh, it was funny.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it was. It was
Anyway,
really good.
Yeah.
And it's a valid question, if we're being honest.
yeah.
Anyway, look, plenty of talking points from United. I don't think it's going to be so much banter all year long, but we'll see.
Mhm.
Maybe Ten Hag, figures this out. On to the next one. On to the other side of Manchester, the very blue side of Manchester. Look, very straightforward W for them, 2-0 at West Ham, which was again, considering they're a top 6 team, top 7 team in the Prem. Going to that part of London and getting a W is no easy feat. I think a lot of teams will tell you that.
Mhm.
But they do it, and they do it, and frankly, Pep Guardiola style through and through. Dominate possession. I think there's 70% of the ball. And their new golden boy, who everybody was questioning a week ago after his performance in the Community Shield, bagged 2 goals, and one of them an extremely Holland style. Great ball by De Bruyne, fantastic finish by Erling. I feel like this is just what's going to come. We're going to see more and more of Holland doing Holland things for Man City, and it looks like he may be that missing piece that City need to grab every trophy this season. Business as usual, but Alina, anything here that maybe whether it be West Ham fans or just broader neutral fans in general can take away from this game? I mean, for me, I'll be honest, it was kind of boring towards the end. I mean,
Mhm.
even the
Yeah.
commentators were doing like substitution reports because there was literally nothing else to talk about. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
anything there?
I don't know, man. Like I this is like one of the only games that I actually sat down and watched the whole 90 minutes actually. And the way the game started, I honestly was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be a great game." Like I think West Ham got like 2 shots or something, like 2 really good chances in
Yeah.
the space like a few minutes, and I was like, "Okay, well, I got to get some popcorn, I got to get a snack, I got to watch this."
Yeah.
But and then they completely died out, West Ham. They could not press, they could not score anything. They looked a little better once they subbed in Skamaka, which I think he should have started.
Yeah.
But West
Yeah.
Ham are like one of the teams that I'm actually following because of Skamaka, because I'm a fan of him, and I thought he did amazing as a solo. I kind of like that classic number 9 tall striker that can kind of like come back, kind of like that Kane, right? Like he's kind of like the
Mhm.
poor man Kane. Like he comes back, he can distribute the ball, and then he's that pivotal number 9 that you can cross to. He can score goals with his feet, his head, anything. So I think the game would have been a lot more interesting if he started from the first minute, and especially towards like the beginning where West Ham had a little
Yeah.
more energy and they had more confidence. I think he would have given them that extra push, to score goals and create more chances.
Mhm.
But I think that's the positive for West Ham, right? Like they didn't pick up any points. It is City though. It is the first game. And I don't know. The positive for them is I think most of the fans were talking about how they're excited about Skamaka, and they were fine with the way he played when he came in.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I think he had a great chance in the second half. There was
Mhm.
yeah,
a ball
the
that he
header.
ended up he ended up being offside, but like
Yeah,
it was a fantastic header and kind of like a preview of what I think we'll see from Skamaka. I can actually see him pumping in double digit goals, whatever that may be. It could be
Sure.
11 or 21, right? Like we don't really know, but I think
mm,
I agree with you, Lena. He's got that. I compared him previously to like I even used the same fucking analogy, like poor man's Ibra, like someone who could just come
yeah,
in, combine with the midfield, breakaway, has good breakaway speed,
Mhm.
and
mm,
then just knows how to finish. He finds the back of the net. Um,
yeah,
I was I wasn't sure what to expect for year one in the Prem, but I think we had enough flashes, and I will also agree with you on the point like he should have started. I think there's nothing to lose. You're probably going to go if you're Moyes, you're probably going into that City game knowing that you're probably going to lose. If you come out with a draw, fantastic.
yeah,
But
Mhm.
with the options they have up front, I just didn't see anything to lose by offering Skamaka a starting role just to see what he can do, how he handles the
yeah,
pressure, how he deals with City from the get go, and to
Yep.
take advantage of as many early game chances as possible. Get the crowd into it. Get them
yeah,
excited as you possibly can in the first 20 minutes because it was then right 25th minute or whatever it was. I think that Holland got that penalty.
Yep.
Where from
mm,
there, all of the air just sucked out of the stadium. Like
Mhm.
once they went
yeah,
up 1-0, the possession took over, and that was kind of that as far as City dominating the game. Andre, any take home points from? Let's talk more about City. Is it just continuation of last year, and you plug Holland in and he fits right in, or do you feel like they had to really kind of change their game plan going into this, especially considering how they performed against Liverpool in the Shield?
No, I've been saying this for all along, ever since he got signed. I think he was the missing piece to the puzzle. I think Pep has a very clear idea as to how he wants his teams to play, and it's just a continuation, man. I think the Community Shield is just a glimpse of what we're going to see from Liverpool, but nothing to take away from City. And moving forward, talking about City, dude, Holland looked amazing. I mean, he was my captain on fantasy, got 26 points. No big deal. My man's going to pump in goals, dude. My man's going to pump in 35 goals. He's just a machine. And with all of that movement around him, De Bruyne looks so comfortable giving them that ball in the first goal. Cancelo is going to have a big target man from the wings. The combination that he doesn't just sit in the box, but that sprint speed into the space diagonally. It's going to open up the field for the Gundogans of the world. Bernardo Silva is going to push up. Like he creates so much more up top, and he gives you that creativity that was lacking. Because Jesus is a great striker, but to me, he just doesn't do enough. Agüero, same thing. He's very good at one or two things, right? Holland does it all. And so I think he's going to change the team drastically. They're the team to beat. They're going to run away with the EPL.
Yeah, guy's a freak, bro. In all honesty, he just really is. I think if he stays healthy, he could definitely hit those tallies you were mentioning earlier. And if he doesn't, City's not going to be phased at all. Like, in all honesty, they have Julian Alvarez to come in and, be that guy. Dude, he rocked the shit out of Kurt Zuma. I don't know if you guys saw it when Zuma took that shot to the face. I was like, bro, my man came in with 20 minutes to go and was still
taking L's.
So, yeah, seriously. Just wasn't ready for it. So I don't think he could even get out of the way if he wanted to. So I mean, I don't know. I think if somehow Holland gets a knock, or if Pep decides he wants to rest him to prevent that, Julian's going to be able to come in and just completely crush it. Yeah, 100%. Two options that are extremely good at what they do that he did not have last season.
Correct.
If this doesn't bring City to Champions League glory, I'm just convinced it will never happen. So, at least, United fans could take that away, take that home with them. Now, that's everything as far as the Prem goes. From our standpoint, I think there's going to be plenty more talking points as the season goes on. With that said, we are knee deep in the MLS season. In fact, coming this week, tomorrow, actually, MLS All-Star is right around the corner. Ton of content going to be there for everybody to tune into as well. But that really kind of begs, the question as to what happened over the weekend. And actually, this weekend with MLS, I thought it was just me. I thought it was like, oh man, I'm tuning in on a great weekend. There's so many damn goals. I thought I was the only one who noticed, but it was all over Twitter, guys. All over Twitter. Something close to like 60 goals scored over the MLS weekend, Saturday and Sunday included. Guys, for my mathematicians out there, that's over 4 a game. And 7 of those coming into stoppage time, drastically changing the outcome of those matches. Crazy weekend. I think, when you want to see a league grow like we do here in the States with MLS, you love seeing shit like that. And me personally, when I'm watching footy all day, when I'm getting up early to watch the Prem, and then I'm cruising into MLS matches, that keeps me going. That brings my energy, my second wave, if you will. And I think most fans feel that way. So me personally, man, I love seeing that shit. But with that said, I think some pretty interesting storylines. Some a little more banter-esque. My boy Chiellini doing Chiellini things in LA. And what I thought was crazy, just kind of kick things off here, was Giassi Zardes, who I've been very critical of. I feel like the guy for the U.S. men's national team just could never find the back of the net, especially in the more crucial times. Found a way to hit a 9-minute hat trick with the Rapids and got them past Minnesota United. And I thought that was crazy. They all came during the field of play too, like the regular field of play. There was no penalty or set piece to kind of help him out there. With that Rapids game and how much they've kind of been on and off this season, I think overall that performance is something they should try. Not Giassi specifically, but the 4-1, try to mirror that as much as they possibly can. United's still a relatively new squad, but they're definitely making waves. I mean, let's start with Andre here. I don't know how you feel about Giassi, bro. For me, it's cool to see him do this. I just kind of wish it would also translate into the games that are very relevant and
Yeah.
very much matter to the eyes of U.S. men's national team fans. But hey, 9-minute hat trick, not up there with Lewandowski's 9-minute 5 goals, but MLS's version of it. How do you feel?
Dude, I love to see it, man. He's one of those players that has had so much. He's been on the spotlight for so long, especially under USM national team, right? Like the U.S. men's national team has needed a guy like that to step up, and he just hasn't. And for him to do that, in a league that needs it, to your point, to grow the game, we need excitement and things like that. And look, shameless plug, one of my best friends, William Yarborough, I've talked to you about him. He's a keeper for Colorado. Yep. He and I were, chatting. We talk quite often, which, by the way, I'm going to try to get him to come on the show as a guest. But that being said, he's fucking excited. He's like, dude, we needed that. Like, Colorado was pushing in the playoffs last season. I saw them here against the Sounders about a month ago, tied 1-1 going into like the last 10 minutes, lost 2-1. Unfortunately, they're still pushing to make the playoffs. But dude, that's what not only that's what the Rapids need, that's what the league needs. And it's great to see from Zardes. Now, is that going to translate into, seeing it at the World Cup or, for the national team? Who knows? But I think, if I'm Greg Berhalter, I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm going to put this guy up top, get Pulisic around him, get Gio Reyna healthy enough. And you're talking, we could potentially be a threat. So, yeah, super exciting shit.
Yeah, for sure. And look, and then I know Berhalter's still figuring out options. I don't want to make this piece of it all about the U.S. men's national team.
Sure.
I mean, he's still figuring out his options up top. I think Ricardo Pepi wasn't everything the Bundesliga was hoping he would be, at least not in season one. Maybe he turns that shit around this year. We'll see. But all in all, I think it's the flurry of goals all around the league, this past weekend. It's where you want the content to be. I mean, as most of this country tends to be on the casual side of the fan spectrum, you want to start building a strong foundation with that side, with that fan base, and that's how you do it, man. So, I mean, Alina, any last minute talking points for Giassi's flurry of goals and how that contributed to this crazy weekend that we saw in MLS?
No, honestly, I think it's probably the best time for him to start racking up those goals for his team, for MLS, and for the World Cup as well.
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch the whole game. I watched the highlights though, and I don't know. It's always incredible to see to see someone score in a hat trick in such little time. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And on the thread of LAFC and just that game in general, it's kind of crazy, right? Like, you hear every now and then about players who may or may not, I don't know, like European talent who views MLS a certain way. Maybe it's kind of a troll or joke league. Maybe it's not. Who really knows? I don't know how they think, right? Like, I don't know how Europeans at scale feel like we stack up as a competitive outlet to what they bring. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't feel good to most fans on this side. I thought it was hilarious, but it doesn't feel good, I think, for most fans, especially who take the game really seriously, to see a European talent come in, make big waves, and then, do the shit that Chiellini did this past weekend. And I think if you haven't seen the clip, go to Twitter. All you got to do is search for Chiellini. It's probably the first clip that pops up. Some people called it a mockery. Some didn't. Some thought it was just funny. But the guy literally goes full Randy Moss. A long ball comes over the top, and he caught it. And he slapped it down. That would have been a straight red for me. I don't know about you guys, but and we're gonna dive into this a little bit in the spicy take section, later in the show. But really quickly, I mean, just 30-second answer here. We'll start with Alina. Do you feel like that was too much? Did he? I don't know. Was that a mockery per se, or was that just something that we can kind of see and forget?
No, I mean, I think it's controversial because he literally volleyballed it, right? But it's not something that Chiellini, it's not something that he's new to, right? I mean, you guys saw what he did to, who was it in the Euros when he just pulled the shirt like that?
Sterling.
No, Saka. It was Saka.
Saka. You're right.
Saka,
Yeah, homie choked him from behind, literally, pulled his shirt. Yeah,
and that's the final in European Championship. So it's not like like he. I mean,
I kind of forgot about that. Yeah.
Some people would argue, well, is he mocking how important the Euros are? And I don't think it's about that. And again, we can dive into like whether that was a yellow card or a red card later as well. But my initial reaction when I saw it is, is just Chiellini things. He's done that
Yeah.
Love
before.
it.
It is what it is. It's not because of the league. It's not about because who he's playing against. It's just a Chiellini thing. The only thing he
I
was
just thought it was
missing is
great.
the band-aid, the
Yeah.
bandage on his head. He was missing that.
That's
Andre,
awesome.
how'd you feel, bro? Did you laugh or did you were like, hey, what the hell's that guy doing?
Dude, as a player, I was like, straight red, man. Get him off the field. I don't give a shit who you are. You can't come into this league, onto this field, and do that type of stuff. I don't know. Like, looking back at it, I think to Alina's point, it's not the first thing we've seen from him to do something like that. But I do think, like, we have done it in, the final of a Champions League match, knowing that he could get a red. I don't know. I think he was like comfortable. They were up 4-1. He said, "Fuck it, why not?" It's also in the middle of the field, right? We're not talking like outside the box. We're not talking in the box like a Suarez at the World Cup type thing. So, look, the dude's got experience. You can't blame, you know what I mean? Like, he's not like a 17, 18-year-old who's like, oh, fuck, I just reacted on instant. He knows what he's doing. He's prevented a goal. And we'll just leave it at that. I thought it was hilarious, but I also, as a player, I'm like, fuck that. I can't stand that.
I forgot about that too.
Yeah.
I guess it could have been worse, right? Like he could have actually bitten somebody. He could have gone full Luis Suarez.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
it definitely could have been worse. On to more more on par news from MLS. Led by some midseason newcomers. They literally just acquired these guys. But Sporting Kansas City doing what a lot of teams have done recently, kind of breezing past LA Galaxy, which is, I think it's kind of crazy to see them as the team in LA that's just become the Clippers of Los Angeles.
Literally.
The old Clippers, not the new Clippers.
Sure.
But I mean, three first half goals leading to, I think it was like a 4-1 route. It looks like guys like Chicharito aren't really making a difference, even though, he's technically the captain of the MLS All-Stars team that's going up against Liga MX this week. Which I don't even know how to feel about, Chicharito going up against Liga MX and being the captain of the MLS All-Stars. But anyway, Sporting Kansas City doing the thing, getting 3 first half goals. I think it's a huge indicator of what's to come and the power of a very great transfer window and what that can do for a team, especially mid-season. I don't think it really moves the needle too much for the standings as of right now. But all in all, great result. Andre, I mean, anything to take away from Sporting Kansas City? I mean, do we feel like these two guys they brought on mid-window are going to be able to just completely, I don't know, change the trajectory as far as the season goes?
It's tough. I'm looking at the standings right now. They're 10 points behind the last spot for the playoffs with about 12 games left. I just don't think they do it. I don't think it moves the needle. I think it's more of a project for long term, right? For next year. Let's just build on it. I really want to focus on the Galaxy point that you brought up, though, in terms of are they the new Clippers in Los Angeles, right? Going from the team that everybody praised and they were kind of set the standard. Then you had Chivas USA. Obviously, we all know how that ended. And now with LAFC kind of turning the tide. Dude, I know a lot of Galaxy fans out there are fuming at how things are going. You've got signings like Douglas Costa. I know he played for your beloved Juventus, Alina. You've got, the Dos Santos brothers that were there a couple of years ago, especially Jonah. You've got Chicharito up top. I mean, they have big name players and they just can't seem to figure it out. I mean, right now they're ninth in the West, 3 points outside of Portland, right? So I don't know, man. To me, that's a massive red flag. Something's going on. Something's in the water. The Galaxy need to figure out. And look, there's even beyond on the field issues that I've been reading on Twitter about Orange County FC. Have you guys read about that at all? How they want to boot them out of the stadium? Like, dude, they're the lower tier, USL club with obviously not a lot of money. All they want to do is borrow your stadium to play their games, and you're saying no, nobody can play. Like, I don't know, man. To me, it's just like.
It's a very LA thing to do. It's a very,
100% elitist.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It just feels very like we can play, but you can't. Like, get out of here, dude.
Legacy institution type shit. Yeah, 100%.
Dude.
Actually a great point on LA Galaxy too. Because for new fans, if you just came in and you thought, hey, LA's always had these two teams who have always kind of dominated.
Right.
El Tráfico has always been the story of LA. It hasn't. I mean, LAFC has come in out of the gate swinging, kind of setting the bar for what football should look like in LA. And Galaxy are really kind of now trailing behind after so many years of success early on. So, Alina, and any other take home? I mean, are there any positives? I think going into the MLS All-Star break that Galaxy can lean on. It's hard, right? When you get routed like that by Sporting Kansas City. I mean, are there any positives to take away here?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could go back and say, oh, well, if you have a negative result, the only thing you can do is improve from it. But I don't really see that for them. Like I feel like they have their history, right? It's not as long
Hmm.
as like other teams' history, but they have a backbone they should be technically relying on and kind of like just supporting. It's like
Yeah.
it's in their DNA. They've won before and they have that history behind them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me how things have like flipped so much for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 2 goals is 2 goals, cool, but you
Yeah.
giving away 3 first half goals to players who have never even been in that side before,
Yeah.
as part of the
To the
build-up play,
worst
I
team
don't know.
in the league, by the way.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
just it's one of those things where it's hard. It's really really difficult to pull something away and be like we could build on this, we could try this, we
Yeah.
could do this. It's just it gets really really dicey. But look, at the end of the day, it also means that MLS is growing in ways that we haven't seen before. New teams are coming out of the woodwork and putting their stamp on the league early, and all of this is great for the fans. I love this shit. I love seeing teams like Charlotte and Nashville and any other expansion team coming in and just saying, and Austin especially coming in and just saying, "Look, we don't care what you've done. We don't care who you are. We're here,
Yeah.
and we're here to compete." So love it, love it. Now, moving on, we've gone through a lot of the key results. There were definitely for those who felt like, "Hey, you skipped over some games. You didn't talk about everything." We have the on-screen visuals for you. All the results are there. And I think, look, we're going to try and get to as many as we possibly can. But frankly speaking, some of this shit's boring. Some of this, most people don't want to hear about. So we're going to cover the things that, we feel like we should cover. And if you want to go ahead and skip ahead into later parts of the episode, please feel free. Always welcome. Now, moving on to some major headlines, some transfer news, some Reddit gems. I think there's a lot here that we can really kind of dive into. But there's a few here that I want to kind of kick things off with for this section of the show. Let's start. Let's go back to the Prem really quick. Top four right now, and I love the too early predictions. That's my shit. I love people who make really ballsy predictions way too early, and we're already seeing it all over Twitter, all over Reddit.
Yeah.
We have the top four in the Prem as it stands, from 1 to 4: Tottenham, Arsenal, Bournemouth, and Man City. City are already choking. It's kind of crazy. So with that said, that's our top four. Does this change? I mean, obviously it's not as predicted. I know that I kind of wanted to ask that question, but Bournemouth is in there. Nobody saw that shit coming. But Tottenham's goal differential with those 4 goals they pumped in past Southampton puts them at the top. City had a pretty boring and stealthy victory or to West Ham at 2-0, so that's why they're in fourth. But for me, I think 3 of those make sense in terms of being in the top 4. One is a huge outlier that won't be at the end of the season. Do we got to dig into that one any further? Is there anything else we're touching on, Andre?
No, I think Bournemouth. Props to you. If I'm
Top
a
4,
fan,
baby.
if I'm a fan, I take a screenshot of that table and I run with it because I'm never gonna see that shit again. I think City moves up. I think Tottenham and Arsenal stay in there, and then I also think Liverpool finagles our way into top 4. Sorry to Chelsea fans, I just don't see it this year. Yeah, they won 1-0, but we've talked about it before off air. Like they need a lot more, right? Losing big player like Lukaku up top, losing potentially Werner to Leipzig. I don't know. I just don't think they have enough. So that being said, yeah, 3 out of these 4 stay. Bournemouth, see you later.
Alina, same or no same? What are we doing?
I like it. I like the fact that City are like, fourth, which is good. I'm not the biggest City fan. I like the prediction with Spurs. I mean, I want them to win the league. Do I think it's gonna happen? Probably not.
Mm.
Um, then I would switch. Or I mean, I honestly I would put in Chelsea there. I think Chelsea
Mm.
can snatch up top 4.
So you
Chelsea.
would kick out Liverpool off the top 4?
Oof.
That's tough, right?
Hell
That's the
no.
one that I'm like
It's
Hell
so
no.
tough. It's so tough.
Liverpool and Chelsea are the ones that I'm like,
Yeah.
stop. I'm
Yeah,
going back and forth.
yeah, I think honestly I have to like make a top 4 prediction and stick with it. And right now what my gut is telling me is City, Spurs.
Love it.
I don't know. Oh,
The top
man.
2 is already spicy.
Chelsea. Yeah. I think and Liverpool. Let's go with that. I
All
don't
right.
think Arsenal are gonna make it
Oof.
there.
Oof,
But I do
man.
think Spurs will make it in there.
Well,
That's
I'll be the first to
Somewhere
tell
in the
you
top
it
four.
hurt. It hurts being wrong, Alina. So I'll make sure to bring that. I'll make sure to bring that up later on.
Yeah.
Look, I think at the end of the day, yeah, you guys are probably right. This changes a lot. I think Bournemouth should be happy. Try to
Yep.
pull Leicester, keep in that top four conversation as much as you can, or top half of the table would be a huge W. So
Yep.
yeah, I think that they're making signings too, which is crazy. Probably more than
Yeah.
United's going to make this window. All right, moving on. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I think a lot of it's going to be somewhat quick fire because we've already jumped to a lot of discussion around this. But Holland silences the critics. Nets 2 in the opener. With how good City have been over the last few years and how they probably will be this season, I, I think we could probably say it is fair to expect this kind of production on a regular basis. But if we do, that puts him into 35 to 40 goal territory. Is that
Mhm.
realistic? Is that do we think that he can actually do that year one, never having played in a league this competitive, this physical before? I'll sort of start with
Yes.
Lena. I know
I
Andre's fucking in.
Go for it.
you can go for it, Andre, if you want to.
Okay, sounds good. No, yeah, I've said it all along, and I said it earlier. I'm not gonna, repeat myself, but I think he's got what it takes, and I also think it's kind of like the best win-win scenario for the player and the team, where he needed a team like that to kind of amplify his reach and do it at a global, more respected league than the Bundesliga. And I also think Pep, that's the guy that you needed. I don't think he's had a 9 like that probably since, I don't know, Ibrahimovic at Barca. One of those like big number 9s who have a lot of movement, kind of world class player. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think at the end of last game, my commentator, it was BN, by the way, and the commentator was like, "Oh, this guy is definitely going to score 20 to 25 goals." And I was like, 25? I think this guy's going to get 40, honestly.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get double what some people are predicting. And I think it's all going to come down to how fit he can stay, and how many, like, yesterday I think he got subbed off like 70th minute, which is fine. He got his
His
brace.
brace.
Yeah, you can get him some some off time, and it didn't look like West Ham were gonna get back into it. So at that point, it was just a matter of holding position and making sure that you don't do anything stupid or any errors. So I think, I mean, honestly, if he can play, if he can start every game and get you 1 or 2 goals, and pretty much like get the win, and then he comes off, that works. I
Yeah,
think he can play a lot of games.
I'll be devil's advocate here. I actually don't think he breaks that number. And here's why. I think at some point they're going to rely on him too much, and I think he'll get hurt. I haven't seen a season where that hasn't happened with Holland yet. So I always ask myself, what's more likely to happen? Is it possible for him to get 40? Oh, hell yeah. Like 1,000%. The guy's a freak. With that said, what's more likely to happen, in my opinion? I think that he could get overused, and he may end up getting hurt, and that puts him at that 20 to 25 range. Um, with that said, the fact that they have Julian there, maybe Pep's already thinking of that. Maybe he knows, and maybe that's the rotation he needs to happen to not only keep Julian, competitive and fresh and in form, scoring goals when he needs him to, but to just give Holland a break and realize and make sure he knows that, hey, you're not. You're not Jesus. You're not the savior. We're not relying upon you for W's. You're just a huge value add to us.
Yeah.
And look, I'll make the bold prediction right now. I said it, in our test recordings before this show ever aired. I still think Nunez maybe outscores Holland. We'll see, bro. Liverpool may
Bold.
not finish as high as City in the table, but I think majority of their goals flow through Nunez, and I think that he could outscore Holland. So I'll backpack that. That's cool with
We'll
me.
see.
We'll see. Moving on to United, and we talked about it lots before, so we won't rehash a bunch of old shit. But I think on Monday, today, again, this being the 8th, interesting news coming out despite the the huge L they took against Brighton this past weekend. We talked about reinforcements. What do they need? What kind of players are they going to need to come in and change this team, really make them competitive, not just for the top half of the table, which has kind of been the goal of the last couple of years, but to be top 4, to be United, the powerhouse club we all know them to be globally. They've identified reinforcements through the names of Adrian Rabiot from Juventus and Arnautovic from Bologna, who's had stints in the Premier League, and I think some out there can argue as to whether or not those are actually successful. I think a lot of United fans are waking up pissed off to this news. At least I would be. I'll be for real. I just don't think that those guys are game changers. I don't even know if they would automatically come in and start for this kind of team, considering where this team is. Let's start with Alina here. I mean, and you're a Serie A person, so maybe you feel a little, I don't know, more positive about Arnautovic from his time in Bologna, and maybe you're of course your beloved Juventus having Rabiot at their disposal. Was he a game changer there? I'll be honest, I didn't, from the Champions League matches that I would see, not just with Juve but with PSG. It's kind of always what you expected Rabiot to be. But do you think he just completely dethrones guys like Donny or Eriksson or any of the midfield talent that they have at their disposal right now?
Here's what Rabiot has that some of the other guys might not bring to the table. He can literally play every game. The guy never gets injured. The guy almost never really gets substituted. For some reason, he just has that stamina and he gets you the 90 minutes. He has really good long shots. He scored goals with his head before. I remember. I think in the last Champions League.
The guy's like 6'4", isn't he?
Yeah. But he does push up. He does like to take risks. He does like to take long shots sometimes. He's not the best passer. He's more of like a box to box, right? Like he's just average at everything, really. So and he can get you.
I love that. That is the most spot on analysis I've heard of Adrien Rabiot before. He's just average at everything. I love that shit. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there, Alina. I know we're definitely working through some time here, but look, Andre, I don't even know if there is more analysis. Like I said, I think Alina's analysis was spot on. Pretty average player. Like you can rely upon him to an extent. I think he's more depth, but like is he a game changer? How is United going to make use of him?
No, I think your first point is what I was going to say. Like, if I'm a United fan, I'm not excited about it at all, right? Like, where's Yuri Tillemans? I would be amped to go after that Belgian superstar. Like, those are the names that would get me excited. I think these two guys, they come on, but they're not starting 11, right? They give you that depth potentially, but they're not going to change the identity of the club that needs that identity. And I think that's a signing that they need. They need a big name signing, and it's just, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, we've got how many weeks left until the transfer window closes, right? A couple, maybe 3,
maybe a few,
yeah. So I just don't think those two guys move the needle for me enough to say, okay, like I'm excited now. We're going to push for top 4. I think they're just get added to the team sheet, and they're just depth for me.
Yeah. I think so too, and that's super, super disappointing, man. Like it really is. Like if this was Edu and Arteta making signings for Arsenal like this, I'd be like, what the hell are we doing? Why am I even supporting it? You know what I mean? Like it's banter club shit. In all honesty, like nothing against Rabiot and Arnautovic. I'm not saying if United was this like powerhouse like City and they were making like the Rabiot signing because they wanted to challenge Rodri for a little more playing time, whatever. Mm-hmm. By all means, bro, go for it.
True.
Like. I will take that kind of depth all day, but they need game changers right now. They need guys who are going to compete for the starting spot right away. And they may be those guys. They may not be. I guess it just depends on how they plug into Ten Hag's system. And that's assuming that they're able to get those deals over the line. If they don't get them over the line, back to square one. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. Moving on the transfer window front, Timo Werner making that U-turn, leaving Chelsea after a short time. Coming back to RB Leipzig pending his medical. Everything else is agreed upon. Looks like it's going to happen. I like Timo a lot. Prior to him coming to Chelsea, I thought this guy was fucking lights out. I actually thought, me and Andre would have conversations about this all the time. I thought Real Madrid didn't need to actually consider him as a backup to Benzema for the striker role because of what he could do on the ball, and his pace is just lightning.
Insane.
But then, he goes to Chelsea and just forgets how to find the back of the net. So, now going back and turning back to Germany and Leipzig, going back to his comfort circle, so to speak. I mean, Andre, do you feel good about this? I think the Bundesliga could use more headliner talent. Yeah. I think they won't argue that at all. And RB Leipzig probably is one of their biggest challengers to Bayern, right? Like they need more teams competing with Bayern and less about a Bayern just stealing away all this Bundesliga talent for their own. So, good signing all the way around. I feel like it's a good move. Do you feel like he'll be able to mirror what he used to do?
I think I always take the player's take on it, because of being a former player, I'm always thinking like, where am I going to be the best fit for, XYZ club. I think the Bundesliga is his comfort zone. I think he is going to be able to do what he did before he went to Chelsea. I also think that, for some players, the Bundesliga is just a lot of pressure, especially playing for a top four club, right? Like, I think coming into Chelsea, I don't know if he understood what it takes to play, 38 games in the league, plus the FA Cup, plus the Carabao Cup, plus the Champions League. Like, some of these players don't really understand the pressure of that league. I think at the Bundesliga, it's a win-win. And to your point, losing Haaland and Lewandowski as a league, which we saw happen with Ronaldo and Messi leaving, for example, La Liga. You need those players, those big name players, to come back and kind of rejuvenate what that league is all about. I do think they, to your point, they are the ones that will push Bayern the most this season, and so I think it's a great move all around. I think the league needed it, he needed it as a player, and it's just a win-win in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Alina, anything new?
I mean, honestly, what's going in my mind right now is what the hell happens to strikers that go to Chelsea? Like, honestly, because you had Morata like what
Morata,
3-4 years ago,
I
yeah,
totally
and
forgot
then you
about
got
that shit.
Lukaku, and
Lukaku.
then
Even before
Werner.
that, you
Like,
had Fernando Torres, El Nino, who just
yeah,
forgot how
yeah.
to score. Yeah, it's crazy.
Falcao play there
What is
too.
it?
I don't know.
What is it with that? But no, all jokes aside, though, I'm a little bummed out because he was linked with Juve, and actually
Yeah,
Juve were trying to get a deal with him, like some sort of loan deal. But he did want to come to Juve as well, but for some reason it just didn't work out. I think it was probably Chelsea saying, we don't want to loan him out. You either buy him or you don't. That's just
yeah,
my
It's
my
probably what it
assumption.
was. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for his career, I think it would have been better to come to a club like Juve as opposed to kind of like go back a couple of years, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like he's taking steps back in his career
totally.
as opposed to taking steps forward. Um, but I think he can rediscover his form, or he can discover his confidence, and then hopefully another top club can snatch him up.
Yeah,
Yeah, or I mean, like I said, just offer some support to Nkunku, who really was that goal
true.
scoring threat for Leipzig last year. So I think some reinforcements, another layer of pace to add to that team. Maybe Bundesliga will have more storylines this season. I'm really hoping for it. I think it's been difficult to cover from a lot of media standpoint, cover that league because Bayern's just so dominant, and the storylines aren't quite always there. So again,
Hmm.
they'll take more talent, and we'll definitely take it too. And finally, the last little storyline before we wrap up here. I thought this was great. It kind of, it's a signing that was needed, and I think they needed someone like Wayne Rooney to come in as the head coach to make it happen. 31-year-old Christian Benteke makes the move to MLS and to DC United, who is in drastic need of reinforcements, being at the bottom of the table. They brought in Wayne Rooney as the big kind of name face manager for that club. Come in and really kind of make some waves, shake some things up, and offer a layer of consistency back to his own playing days at DC United. And now they get Benteke, and don't make no mistake about it, the guy's still only 31. He has stints at
Hmm.
Villa, Crystal Palace, Liverpool, Belgium international. He's been playing with Belgium since the U21s. Um, I don't expect him to come in and become the just completely reverse engineer what DC United has been up to this point in the season. But hell, I mean, you need to sell more merchandise. You need a big name player coming in, and look, he knows how to score goals, knows how to find the back of the net. I have zero problems with this signing. I think some people are considering it a MLS retirement signing. Guy's 31. He's not 36, 37,
No.
38
Yeah.
years old. He's
Yeah,
31
exactly.
at the tail end of his prime. Um, Anything noteworthy here that you feel like maybe the broader public kind of missed out on, Alina, from your standpoint, when you see someone like Benteke at this age coming to the MLS?
Honestly, again, with the age thing, 31 it's not, 1995 anymore. It's not the early 2000s anymore. Players can play until 35, 36, and they can be fine. I mean, just look at Modric, look at Ronaldo, look at
Hmm.
Messi. Just for just a few examples, Benzema, I'm not sure how old he is, but I think he's in that range in the
34,
middle
I think.
30,
Yeah, he's
34.
mid-30s now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he just arguably had the best season of of
Hmm.
of his career at 34. So honestly, I think it's a great signing, and I think we talked about this too. Like, I think it was either last show or our first show where we were talking about how, well, okay, it's a great move to get Rooney, but can they actually reinforce the squad? And now we're seeing like these little moves, and now they have Benteke. And I think it's great. I
Yeah.
think it's great for them.
100%. Andre, how do you feeling about this? And you and I used to watch Benteke in his games together in the EPL.
No,
I mean, now we're going to get to watch him in MLS. What do you think?
it's great for the league, man. I feel like this transfer window for the MLS just kind of amplified that the fact that like they're not just going after those guys that are retiring. They're not going after Steven Gerrard or David Beckham. Like they're going after actual true superstars. I mean, look at Toronto FC, right? After Jovinko, they've got Insigne. I mean, the league is doing a fantastic job of kind of nurturing that, and also I think word of mouth means a lot. And what I mean by that is players talk to players, right? It's always going to be that like, hey, somebody that plays for a specific league or a specific club, and they try to, lure you. A perfect example that I used was Josie Altidore and Michael Bradley. I know those two, they know each other very well from the U.S. men's national team days. And that's literally what happened. Bradley was like, hey, man, just come to Toronto. And then sure enough, 3 weeks later, he was there. And so, going back to my original point, I think it's great for the league. I think the Rooney project is something that I'm going to keep a close eye on. We've talked about it in previous recordings. It's, that DC United team, I think it's a long-term play, but I also think that they're going to make some noise next year. And so he's in a really peculiar and unique situation. And I think Benteke is one of many. I'm going to venture out and say that he's not the only signing that he's going to bring in. I don't know if this year, but definitely next year, at least in the offseason, he's going to, talk to his boys. Maybe we'll see another United legend come to the U.S. I don't fucking know, man. But the Rooney effect is going to be a real deal in the MLS for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree, man. And look, I think what it should pave the way for before we wrap up here is just more overseas talent, even if
Yep.
they aren't the stars. In fact, what I would like to see is actually overseas talent that's very much still in development mode. They can get legitimate minutes and playing time here,
Yep.
and really grow the brand of the league, of the clubs involved, grow their own personal stock, right? Create some highlights for themselves, and then look, when you're ready, right? When you're on the cusp of being ready for first team European football, boom, go back,
Yep.
put your stamp on that league, and continue the journey. I think that's what this league should become over time. I think it gives it another layer of credibility that it just didn't have. But look, people who are kind of ripping apart this transfer and saying, hey, that it's another retirement, another move by the retirement league. I think you got to watch a little bit more, and you probably also weren't around when those moves were in abundance, and they was just happening all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, a huge move for DC United. We'll see what happens. But look, guys, we're right there. We're at the end. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. I know I talk fast. That's just how I am. A lot of news information to get to, and a lot more banter and bullshit to get to too. I love this show. I love the people that we have on it. Andre, Alina, thank you for joining. Those faces are going to be consistent, and we may add more faces to the show over time. Who knows? We're going to keep evolving. But thank you to anyone who tunes in. Be sure to hit the subscribe and the like button below. To continue to get reminders and that little ding whenever we upload. This show will go out on a weekly basis, so we're going to recap everything that comes in from the weekends, whether it be EPL, Serie A, La Liga, maybe a little Bundesliga, maybe a little bit of Ligue 1, and of course on this side of the world, MLS and Liga MX as well. So again, thank you to my two co-hosts. Thank you to everybody who tunes in. We'll see you guys next time. Appreciate it.